Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery. Damn, it's a full house tonight. Wow, we got people visiting for the holidays. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you with us. There's one rule here in the One Who Wakes Theater that there are no rules. You don't have to like any of this. You're free to come and go if you need to go to the bathroom, if you want to leave, whatever. Please don't take what I say as gospel. Check it against your own internal guidance. If it works for you, great, use it. If not, throw it out and, judge me a crazy guy. That's okay too. So tonight we're doing our second deepening of lesson number 10. And I always wear this nose for those of you who are new. I had a real seriousness problem. Anybody ever had one of those? Taking the world seriously, taking yourself seriously, taking everything seriously. Well, I had a pretty acute case of that, but there was nothing cute about it. So when I was walking my pathway, my guide, I found out, was Yeshua, Jesus, and he gave me this clown's nose as one of the most ridiculously rudimentary, simple, but most powerfully effective spiritual practices I've ever done. And I've not forgotten that. So I like to wear it to remind us that none of this is serious. We're eternal beings, and we've just forgotten. And we've taken our temporal experience a wee bit too seriously. So this is the way of the heart. We're coming to the end of the way of the heart. When they were channeling this through JM, they didn't know that there was 2 more years to come. They didn't know that the way of transformation was coming and then the way of knowing. So he's making a transition as we get to the way is easy and without effort. In the next one, he's simply going to do a meditation into the heart of Christ. He's setting us up for the way of transformation, which is the practice of transforming your being. The way of the heart is, this is what the truth is. This is the heart of God. It's your heart. This is the truth of reality. Then comes the way of transformation, because many of us have watched the way of the heart here and heard the truth, and immediately our minds go, well, shit, how? How? Well, the next year, the way of transformation is lots of the how. But we'll get started with the pathway axioms. Cindy?
I am created as my Father created me to be. I am free, and nothing sources my experience but me and each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore, how to live fully. The only relationship which holds any value at all is your relationship with God, your creative source. And the keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. And the definition of love: love allows all things, accepts all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things.
Briefly, I'm just going to touch on number 2 tonight. I need do nothing. This is a really great time of year to look at your beliefs around what you're supposed to do and what's socially appropriate and all the things that you do around the holidays which you really don't want to do. But you do them because you think someone else wants you to do them. I mean, we have all kinds of crazy codependent stuff in our consciousness around the holidays. So your great opportunity to invite Spirit to work with you on I need do nothing. You will find a plethora of low-hanging Christmas stocking forgiveness fruit cake around the holidays, if you wish. In the last lesson, lesson number 9, Yeshua gave us the foundational practice on which the rest of the entire pathway is built. It's about abiding as Christ, spending 5 minutes in the consciousness, I am the creator of my experience, and I am present, choosing what that experience is. It's kind of taking those axioms that we just saw and putting them into the moment-to-moment practice for at least 5 minutes. So Cindy's going to read it, And then we're actually going to do it together for 5 minutes. Who's done their 5 minutes today? Who's done 10 minutes today? Wow, cool. See, it starts to get fun when you start doing it. You're like, wow, I want more of this rather than 5 minutes of mind ass whooping. You know. Go ahead, honey.
Begin now to utilize some time each day, without letting a day go by, in which you sit with yourself. Sit with you and start by acknowledging that you are one with God. Give yourself 5 minutes to choose, to practice choosing how you will experience sitting in a chair. Practice sitting in a chair as an infinite creator of exactly what you are experiencing in your emotional field. Utilize this very process as a symbol of preparing the mind for the dropping of a pebble into it, out of which will reverberate the vibrations or ripples that will come back to you. Therefore, where you are in this moment, look around. Look at the objects that you see. Look at the people that you see around you, if there are any. Whatever sounds may be coming into your field of awareness, whatever pictures or ideas you hold of what you are or what the world is, these are all fleeting and temporary illusions. They will pass away and begin passing away the moment they were created. Look at all that is around you and decide what value it holds for you. Will you see it as something that you must have in your existence? Or will you choose to see it as something you've playfully drawn to yourself? You appreciate it, and it can be gone tomorrow, and your peace will not be disturbed. Which way will you view the world? It begins with 5 minutes, in which you acknowledge that you can create whatever experience you want, a feeling that floods through your awareness, as a quality of thought that you allow to keep repeating in the mind. You can sit in a chair as an awakened Christ now. For just 5 minutes, experience yourself as Christ, crystallizing a body as a temporary teaching and learning communication device, plopping itself into a chair in a totally neutral corner of creation because you want to have the experience of sitting blissfully at peace in your perfect knowledge of your union with God in this moment.
I want to connect 2 dots for you. The first axiom, nothing sources my experience except me in each moment. And then here, practice sitting in a chair as an infinite creator of exactly what you are experiencing in your emotional field. So if you're going to walk this pathway authentically, blame to anyone else for what you're feeling has got to stop. If you're blaming others for making you feel a certain way, the weather for making you feel a certain way, anything, the body for making you feel a certain way, you are creating that. We're fearful to come to realize, oh God, if I'm even creating that, and we feel dumb for doing that to ourselves, so we want to project blame outwards. But it's really important, if you're going to walk this pathway authentically, that you own unconditionally what is being experienced within your being, in your body, comes only at your creation. So we'll join for 5 minutes. Shanti. Christo. Welcome back. Noticed a lot of you did that with your eyes closed. It's not so much a meditation. It's not to try and get away. It's rather take your beingness and welcome the world as your creation. Welcome it into the vastness of your beingness. Okay, the Lord's Prayer. And then Cindy will read the English version for us.
WOM, the Boshmaya, Ni te Kadash Shamach, Te Malkuta, Neve Asivinach, Akina the Boshmaya O Baraha, Haulan Lachman, Sunkanan Yamana, Boshwoklan Halpin, Akina Daphanan, Shwakin Il Hayabin. Ula talan el mission, el pasan membisha. But all the lachim el kuta, uhaila, utish bhakta. La alam. Amen. Amen.
Father, Mother of the cosmos, shining light of all, focus your light within us as we breathe your holy breath. Enter the sanctuary of our hearts, uniting within us the sacred rays of your power and beauty. Let your heart's desire unite heaven and earth through our sacred union. Help us fulfill what lies within the circle of our lives today. Forgive our secret fears, as we freely choose to forgive the secret fears of others. Let us not enter forgetfulness, tempted by false appearances. For from your astonishing fire comes the eternal song which sanctifies all, renewed eternally in our lives and throughout creation. We seal these words in our hearts, committed in trust and faith. Amen.
That's a much different translation than what we've heard in the worldly sense. So that the Aramaic one there, that's JM, who was the channel of this pathway, speaking the words as Yeshua spoke them. And this is Yeshua and JM's English translation of what Yeshua was meaning to say 2,000 years ago. It's a very present prayer. It's not, heaven's out there somewhere. It's present, and forgive us our trespasses, like it's just forgive us our forgetfulness as we forgive everybody else's temporary insanity. All innocent by temporary insanity. And that applies to everyone on the planet.
For who can you seek that can heal you? Who can you discover that can bring some form of magic to you, that can overcome your resistance to the truth? Look high and low, and you will not find them. Seek forever, and you will remain a seeker forever. For the truth is set within your heart, and all power under heaven and earth is given unto you. It is that power that changes the momentum of the mind and heals every wounded perception. In the end, then, of all seeking, you must look into the mirror and decide to be the one who heals himself or herself. You are the one who decides, from infinite freedom, how to use the power of your mind in each moment. Therefore, the only question that a seeker of truth really truly needs to ask him or herself is this: would I know conflict or peace? Would I be right or happy? Would I see the complete neutrality of all events in this world as wisps of a dream, being birthed and passing away? Would I see myself whole and complete? For as I look upon the world, I have judged myself, and as I look upon myself, I judge the world.
How many of us have sought healing in traditional medicine, in alternative medicine, in energy healing. We might get some temporary relief, but it usually comes back because we don't change the source, which is the insanity in our mind. We continue to think the same way. And the ego talks us into this whole game that, oh, if this problem were to go away, of course I wouldn't ever think like that again. I mean, how many of us have found ourselves in a new relationship that promises everything our old one didn't get it, and we find out the new one is just like the old one because you're still there? So he calls seeking healing outside of yourself as magic, meaning it's just not going to work. And many of us seek out here like crazy. We want someone to lay hands on us and make right what's wrong with us. All the while we've been using the power of consciousness given us by God to do those kind of things to ourselves. So all change, all healing, this is what he meant when he said, physician, heal thyself. We all end up becoming our own healer because we heal our minds, we heal our misperceptions. All our dis-ease in the body comes as an effect of the dis-ease in our minds. Everything is psychosomatic, period. There are no other environmental causes, that kind of stuff. It's all an internal creation. So when we're seeking healing outside of ourselves, just know you may get some temporary relief, but you haven't addressed the cause of all that because you're still thinking you're separate from God. In your reunion in the truth of what you are comes miraculous kind of healing. So you must look in the mirror, and I don't have my mirror up here tonight. I'd like to use it, but you must look in the mirror and decide to be the one who heals yourself. For those of us who have played deep victim in our life in this world, that's an impossibility for us. It seems that way because we seem to be a victim to everything out there that's happening to us, and we blame it on the world, and we say, I can't be happy when they're killing whales in Antarctica. I can't be happy with this GMO thing. I can't be happy with this. I can't be happy with that. That's bullshit. That really is. I mean, we talk ourselves into this stuff and we believe it. But you're perfectly capable of being happy despite everything that seems to be happening outside of you. I mean, who put a gun to your head and said, you must be unhappy because of this whale thing? Anybody? Somebody said it was a bad deal and you chose to get on the train and believe that. So there you are driving your car when you could be at perfect peace and you're fretting about something 20,000 miles away. We do this kind of stuff to ourselves, and that's what causes our suffering. So we look in the mirror and recognize everything that I used to project out there and say cause is out there and I'm effect. We begin to reflect all those projections back and realize, oops, I'm the one who's creating this dis-ease. I'm the one who's projecting blame. I'm the one that's feeling this way. I mean, have you ever noticed how you get really mad at somebody and you just fret about it and you're angry and you're frustrated? Well, they're across town not having a clue. They're laughing, having a great time. Who's suffering? We do it to ourselves and we justify it. And then we come home and we tell our spouses about it. We want somebody to justify it with us. We hurt ourselves truly all the time. So you must turn that back and recognize that we're doing it from our infinite freedom. And ultimately that's what truly scares our ego, is how powerful we are that we've done this to ourselves. That scares us to death. It scares the ego to death. But in the spirit there's an extraordinary, the ultimate amount of power, the power over heaven and earth, to create your state of being so that no matter what is happening, you are at conscious choice in the creation of your state of being. So if you want to be a seeker of truth, and that's truth with a capital T, this simple question: would I know conflict or peace? Because if you're experiencing conflict, What he's saying in the axioms is you can only experience conflict because you've chosen to experience conflict. You may be unaware of that choice. You may be unconscious, or what we call dreaming, asleep to the fact that a choice was made in your consciousness. And boy, they happen fast too, don't they? Like, it's how do you get a wedge in there kind of thing? But you can. The Spirit will help you start getting a wedge. If you're willing to go, wow, if I'm experiencing this, it can only be because I chose it. So you can actually start to go backwards in the timeline and figure out where you made that choice. And the Spirit can help you start to undo that, because time is not what we think it is. Would I be right or happy? I was working with a friend today, and she was committed to being right about what she was feeling. No doubt her peace was already gone. It wasn't a matter of, do I want peace in this moment? It's, I just want to be right about my blame of what took my peace away. That, well, what took your peace away was your choice. We don't really want to get there. But if you want to have the peace that passes all understanding, because you can be at peace when nobody else understands it, because they're still playing this ego projecting the world is cause and I'm effect game. It's this level of sovereignty, this level of self-responsibility, this level of self-mastery that you're invited to. I mean, Yeshua, he gave us the ultimate example on the cross, still at peace, still offering forgiveness, not saying, these horrible people should rot in hell for what they're doing to me. No, it was actually the opposite. Whew. And then here's the metaphysics of the whole thing. I mean, he's asking us to see complete neutrality. The lesson before this was all events are neutral. All events are neutral. I mean, if you look in your consciousness, it's like hardly any events are neutral. I mean, because if you watch your mind is always keen to assess meaning and value to everything that happens. And then there's a whole huge, artificial intelligence consciousness running back there trying to then decide, what does it mean to me? How does this affect me? And what do I need to do so it goes my way and not another way? Anybody relate to all that? All of that is happening in this omniscient, dreaming mind that we're playing with. Would I see myself as whole and complete? If you see yourself as whole and complete, you can't be at fear. For as I look upon the world, I have judged myself. Because it is your judgment of the world that creates the world you think you see. It can't be any other way. We think, we see it, then that's what creates our beliefs. That's part of the whole dream. In truth, it's our beliefs that create what we see out there. Because have you not been to, you can have, somebody doing a presidential debate, and you got half of the people who run out to buy guns after the debate, and half of the people are really happy. Is there any objective truth in any of it? Those people are viewing it through what they've already chosen to be true. Not that there's, objective truth in these neutral events that are happening. So as I look upon the world, I've judged myself, and as I look upon myself, I judge the world. If you look within and see your guilt, what do you see out in the world? A whole lot of guilt. You see a whole lot of dis-ease in here. What do you see out there? The completely paradoxical thing is when you look within and see only peace, even though the images out in the world will show you conflict, you'll know there's only peace as the truth of it all. You'll see right through it because you'll be seeing from peace to peace. And this is what will hasten the world out there waking up to peace when we each do it individually. But many people are waiting for it to happen out there, waiting for God to come on that mythical, upgraded Santa Claus chariot and magic wand earth and all of a sudden heaven on earth. Well, we're God. We're the ones that created this hell in Eden. It's up to us to do that. And it's not going to come to us, it comes through us, choice by choice by choice by choice, moment by moment by moment by moment. Your last week perfect peace is not worth anything when you're raging mad right now. Nothing. It's not worth a thing to you when you're not at peace now. So this is the kind of metaphysics. This is turning cause out there, I'm at effect. It's turning it around and putting it in proper order. I, as infinite creator, am at cause. What's out there is effect. When humanity wakes up to the fact that we are all the child of God and that we are always creating the effects out there, that's when it'll begin to change. Because we won't sit back as victims and blame the government and blame those people. I mean, sometimes we project with such genericness, there's no one there. I mean, do you notice sometimes how we just project on terrorists or on the people who are supposed to be doing this? I mean, it's just like, shooting in the air and acting like you're actually pointing at something. So it's about arresting the mirror of consciousness back on yourself, seeing that cycle and bringing it to a close.
This was the simple secret that I once discovered when I walked upon your planet, that it wasn't about achieving some grand mystical state of consciousness. It wasn't about acquiring great powers that could attract the attention of thousands. It wasn't even about being able to manifest, although these powers may indeed often express themselves through the mind as it awakens. It is about accepting the truth that is true always, and being determined to allow that truth to be the foundation from which you enjoin each and every moment of your experience. I am awake. I am safe. I am at peace. What do I truly want this moment to be for? For as I decree it, so shall it be. Beloved friends, the way is easy and without effort. You exist to extend your treasure, and your treasure is that which is laid up in heaven through the decision to remember only your loving thoughts, to extend only loving thoughts, to allow your actions to express or to manifest in the field of time the good, the beautiful, and the holy. And never is your freedom taken from you. Never in any circumstances do you lose the innocent freedom to teach only love, to be the presence of peace, to recognize that the world can give you nothing, just as the world can take nothing from you.
This was the simple secret I once discovered when I walked your planet. He discovered it. It's being handed to us on a silver platter. He charted a path into consciousness that had never been charted before to discover the truth. And he said 2,000 years ago, there'll be a time I won't speak in parables and in stories. It won't be hidden. It'll be very plain. Bam! Very plain. It's being given to us. And we still argue with it. We still say, no, that can't be. But you recognize, if you want peace, you have to be sovereignly at peace regardless of what's happening out there, regardless of what anyone's thinking. If you're in that game, you're one nasty word that someone's thinking away from completely losing your peace. What peace is that? That's no peace. But he makes an important point here that the egoic mind can make a whole lot of trickery about. It is not about achieving a grand mystical state of consciousness. It's not about acquiring great powers that will attract thousands. It's not even about being able to manifest. If you look within your consciousness, there's a whole lot of energy about this spiritual path in the attempt to attain those things. And I can tell you, there are a lot of people who are very, very serious meditators and stuff attempting to do this, and they'll never get there because they're holding on to the fact that they still think they're a victim. And they're saying, my freedom will come when these things happen, rather than I will rest in my freedom now, and whether they come or not as a byproduct or an effect of my awakening into the peace and the truth that I am, so be it. So if you're chasing some of that stuff, and if you're on this pathway, the energy that energy's in our consciousness about wanting to be that one who can do all those great things. But let me remind you, when those great things were done, Jesus wasn't the one who did them. The Father did them through Him. So it's about becoming empty of self. And if you keep a self to chase these great things, you're only making your own trap. It's ego, power, quicksand. If you're at peace, peace is its own eternal and abundant reward. It won't matter to you whether you can manifest or not. It won't matter whether you have power to lay hands on and heal or not. That won't matter to you whether it comes through you or not. You will already be reaping the rewards of your abiding in truth, that you're creating your experience and you are indeed at peace. So if you're chasing that stuff or there's that energy, just go ahead and let it go. I am awake, I am safe, I am at peace. There's a lot of energy behind I want to, when it happens. About putting it out in the future. You'll see all his stuff is present tense. Right here, right now. What is it I truly want this moment to be for? When he first started dropping these questions in my consciousness, I recognized I would go into about a 10-minute pondering, considering, like a Rubik's Cube, considering all the potential variations of what I might want, to the point where I got myself confused. I didn't even realize I was trying to answer a question. I'd just get lost. Does that happen to anybody else? It's like rather than making a decision to answer the question, I got lost in the potentials, which is yet another trick that our egoic consciousness will play on us. The short answer, for me, ended up simply being peace. And when I got really clear that that's what I wanted, rather than, oh, I want this to happen, I want that to happen, stop chasing stuff out in the world, that's when things really started picking up. For as I decree it, so it shall be. So I am awake, I am safe, I am at peace. He's decreeing as the truth. There's a whole lot of energy because you can, as an ego, decree I am till the cows come home, but not be abiding in the metaphysical truth of this, and those will be empty mantras that will get you nowhere. To say the words means nothing. To mean them and know the power of them is really powerful stuff. So the way is easy and without effort. Because it's the truth of what we are. We're always ceaselessly creating. Even though we seem to be creating an extraordinary amount of suffering and dis-ease and loss of peace and everything else, we're doing that to ourselves. We're creating all the time. Even when you try and do nothing, there you are creating the effort to do nothing. So you might as well get on with the fact that that's the way the truth of creation is. You exist to extend your treasure, and that treasure which is what's laid up in heaven. And what he means by that is you're creating the things that you will abide with eternally. Rather than manifesting cars and houses and boats and boyfriends and that kind of stuff, which you're not going to take with you, he's suggesting use the power you are as an infinite creator to create that which will always be with you whether you seem to have a body or not. The power of how consciousness works, the power of choice, peace, loving thoughts. Because all of us right now, if you didn't have a body, what would you have to think negative thoughts about? I mean, do you think you are in a disembodied spirit form still thinking negative thoughts about people with bodies? To extend your loving thoughts and allow your actions only to express or manifest the good, the holy, and the beautiful. Many times we want our actions out in the world to seem like we're trying to do that, but man, we are judging like crazy. You know, we're feeding the homeless people while we're thinking, schmuck, get a job. You know, we're putting on the face of innocence, and we do this kind of thing all the time. If you begin to look in your consciousness, it's happening like rapid fire. And if you don't truly get present with what's happening and begin to back out of that and first learn how to witness and then how to get further away from it and not be the thoughts or the thinker. Whew. To recognize the world can give you nothing. How many of us are certain the world can give us abundance, recognition, peace, education, degrees, which will lead to recognition and all? I mean, our whole educational system is designed to teach us to do just this, that the world has what you want. And that the world can take nothing away. How many of us have experienced loss and thought, it's a mean, mean world out there? He's trying to get you to recognize the only thing of value is your consciousness and the power of choice within it to create your experience. That's the only thing that matters, and that you can never lose. Has anyone here ever lost the ability to think any thought you want to think? Can you imagine a circumstance where you could have your thoughts limited? Well, there's God, the source of all consciousness, giving itself to you unconditionally. You're free to make a mess of it, or you're free to make peace with it. What will it be? So, for those of us who think God judges, if God did, given all our shitty thoughts, we would have lost the ability to think already. But fortunately, God doesn't judge, so we can think shitty thoughts as long as we want, or we can use the power of choice to start thinking happy thoughts, unlimited thoughts, peaceful thoughts. We can start using our thoughts to not judge and see innocence rather than judge. So, for those of people who think God's a noun out there somewhere, or a thing, it's a verb, which is the constant movement of consciousness, the constant movement of God mind, which none of us have ever been apart from and we can't get away from. But we each have the sovereign ability to use it as we will. And we reap our own benefits. We ask. I mean, when you're thinking negative thoughts of someone else, remember, ask and you shall receive. We think that because we don't speak the words out loud, somehow our thoughts are private and they don't affect us. That's not so.
When a child goes through a shift of awareness, you call it the maturation process, there comes a point, not by struggle, not by design, not by much processing, not by any manner of strategies. The child merely, in an instant, looks at the toys that he has been playing with and simply transcends them. And the parents come home and the child has taken the toy truck and put it away in the closet. This doll is put on the windowsill and a book is picked up instead. Who makes the change? No one outside that child. And when you put aside any negative habit, as you would perceive it to be, when you have given up placing value on something that no longer serves you, you're merely transcendent. And it is done with. No big deal. No one does it for you. You simply decide. You put back the value you placed on it, and the objects that were the symbols of what you were valuing merely drop out of your life. In just this way, unenlightenment can be put away as though it were a toy that you have outgrown by merely looking at all the effects of unenlightenment and then asking the question, is this what I wish to have continue as my experience? Or am I willing to put the doll on the windowsill and pick up a book instead?
We've all experienced this. Every one of us know, I don't know, college drinking or something that you just walk away from. Not with an extraordinary amount of distress, just you're done with it. If you're in this room, you're pretty much done with time and space. You're done with suffering. You're done with fear. You're done with unenlightenment. But we don't recognize how much we have to set down, how much of what our being is unenlightened. I know it was rather enlightening for me when Yeshua kept showing me every thought I thought was unenlightened. Every single one. That's kind of sobering. Especially when you think that's a bullet train going through my mind and I can't stop that thing for nothing. Luckily, he taught me you're not supposed to stop it, you're supposed to get off. And once you get off, you can watch it go screaming by in great peace. And then you just leave the train station. Because the thinking no longer holds value for you. The thinking from an unenlightened point of view, from the body-mind's perspective, no longer holds value for you. You only want to know the Spirit's truth and be informed by an infinite mind that knows everything that's going on rather than thinking for yourself. So what are you ready to put down? And can you recognize that you don't have to have a how and a strategy? What we're trying to do here is restore all of us to the fact that our choices are powerful. But one of our unenlightened things is that our choices are powerless. How many of us choose over and over and over and over and over and over? We don't recognize that that's actually subtly confirming the fact that we don't believe our thoughts have any power or our choices have any power. So it's about not trying, efforting to do this. When the soul is ready, you just stop. When you've truly had enough, you just stop. Sometimes we're such great creators, we have to bring ourselves to our very own knees and really hit rock bottom before we say it's been enough. It's like guilt. We have to wring every drop out of the sponge of guilt before we're finally willing to stop. But when we're willing to stop, we stop. When unenlightenment is no longer acceptable to you in your life, you'll stop. In the meantime, you'll be shocked at how much you're attached to unenlightenment, how much you're attached to being a victim, how much you don't like having to be responsible for every thought you think and every feeling you generate, that you can't blame anymore. You simply decide, you pull back the value you placed on it. And all of our suffering comes because we've placed value on something and we fear losing it. Valuing things, highly valuing things, and peace are juxtaposed. They don't really go together. If you're going to value things, then you're going to be at loss of peace if those things go away. The only thing he's saying to value is that which is I am, which is your consciousness, your ability to choose and create experience. That you're never going to lose. So it's a great opportunity to use time and space to master that. Is this what I wish to have continue as my experience? I mean, that's a simple question. If not, are you willing to set it down? Sometimes our addictions run really deep, deeper than we think. But it's just that easy about putting it down. Unless we make it hard. And if you look at the spiritual pathway, there's a whole lot of energy of it being really hard, really painful, and taking a long time. I've been to spiritual groups where you get together and the first 20 minutes is, a bloodbath of everybody talking about how deeply they're suffering. And we actually think that's such a cool thing. and we start to put spiritual stripes on our, come in. Wow, I had all kinds of shit happen to me. All the while, well, what great, Creator. When you're finished, you can stop. But we even glorify our self-created suffering on our spiritual paths. I mean, the spiritual ego is a very, very slippery animal. Really something else.
A book that speaks of life. A book that is filled with wisdom. A book that teaches you how to step lightly in the world. To be in the world, but not of it. And that book is the depth of your consciousness in which all things are already written. And what depth finds its source in your heart. And you enter it therein through forgiveness, through the process of relinquishing the world, not hating the world, not despising the world, but simply relinquishing it. You allow your time to serve you in the process of relinquishing what does not serve you any longer and what only disturbs your peace. And as you cultivate that practice, you will find that the peace that is already within you, that you've touched 1,000 times in 1,000,000 different ways, begins to grow more constant, like the rays of the sun beginning to filter through the fog that has settled into the mountain valley, obscuring the clarity of all things. Your peace descends gently, like a dove, descending, as some would say, through the crown, down through the brain mind, and down even to the heart, the abdomen, and throughout the cells of the body, while the body lasts.
So life, the book of life that he's referring to, is your inner experience. We can have some very powerful books in the world that can point to that. The Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, the Upanishads. I mean, they're all over the place. But we oftentimes make it about the book rather than what the book is trying to point us to within. It's there that you experience life eternal. It's there that while even here, you'll wake up to the fact of what you are, an infinite, ceaseless creator, and you're creating right now, just as you'll be creating after the time you don't seem to have a body. That your creative capacity within consciousness is ceaseless. And you can get on about filling your life with that wisdom now, rather than waiting to some mythical time. Because the only time you'll ever find it is when you find it within now. It's not like after the body dies, you go to like a diner in heaven and they give you the secret. I mean, you've drawn it to yourself here. That's not to say that you can't find it after the life, after the body's life. But the point is, you've gotten it right here in front of you. Is it time to start living it? It's your choice. You allow time to serve you in the process of relinquishing what does not serve you any longer and that which disturbs your peace. So how many of us have felt a victim to time? I know this oftentimes. Sometimes people in their later years will seem to come and be like panic because I'm running out of time to get this right. I mean, but right there they are creating ceaselessly. But the point is, using time to serve you rather than being bound by time and the effects and all that it seems to have in the world. Using time to master choice for peace under all conditions. Mastering time to relinquish all your attachments. And he makes it clear, this is not about pushing the world away, nor is it about indulging the world. The middle path, Buddha said the same thing. You can be in the world but not be of it. But if you're pushing against the world, then you're in it saying it's bad. If you're indulging it, then you're in it and saying that's all there is. So that middle pathway is really important. And then peace will begin to grow within you. And then the next bump we hit in the road is, oh my gosh, this peace is growing within me. And then something will happen And the peace that you were certain was eternal will be blown completely away. The wheels will fall completely off the bliss bus. And the ego will be very eager to invite you back into, you failed, you're a loser, you'll never get this right, those people are real assholes, and try and reconstitute the whole game. Welcome the opportunities to practice. Welcome disturbance. We want to get a little bit of peace, and then we want to set the world out here up so that we're never disturbed again. Rather, run at opportunities to be disturbed. That's how you practice mastering the choice for peace. Practice, practice, practice. Welcome the practice. That's how we got so bad at not having peace, is we practiced it incessantly. So welcome the practice so that it grows more consistent. And you will begin to feel it. First it'll be a concept. Then you'll start to experience it a little bit. And then when peace truly settles into the body, that's when it's really, really starting to stick. Because you begin to live in the feeling of peace. It's not a concept anymore, it's a feeling. And other people even begin to feel it in your presence. That's when it really is deeply starting to settle in.
Gently relinquishing the world rests on your decision to choose to teach only love, because you have realized that when you don't, the effect that you know immediately is painful, it is conflicted, it is unfulfilling, and that is what you want no longer. Here you have begun to transcend the world that you have made and to reclaim the world made for you. A world that rests in perfect union, in the union of Father and Son, God and offspring, Creator, created. The way is easy and without effort. What value have you ever placed upon the world that has restored to you the peace that you seek? Oh, this automobile will do it. This relationship will do it. This new career will do it. If only I can take a trip to the far corners of the world, then I will be at peace. And so peace never quite comes. A creator abiding in enlightenment knows that all events are neutral, so neutral that they have no effect, except for those who choose to be caught up in illusions. The Creator, awakened, merely creates out of devotion to the mystery of that which has created him or her. The mind of an enlightened Creator does not arise in the morning and say, "How can I survive yet another day in this world?"
Honey, we've got "and so peace never quite Connie's."
I know, isn't that nice?
Thank you. Would you fix that? I appreciate that. How many of us have found our peace restored by ice cream or chocolate? Until that restoration ends up on our hips or on our belly, and then all of a sudden what seemed to be the source of our peace is all of a sudden now the source of even more suffering. Even more strategy now to get rid of this, which will drive you to more ice cream. You know, it's a very vicious cycle when we try and use things out here to create an inner condition. He's inviting us into an inner condition that is independent of things out there. And that's when you really, instead of always being in lack, trying to get from the world, that's when all of a sudden you become forgiven. You become forgiving your peace away to everyone and everything. The world that God made for you, your own I amness, your own sense of consciousness, your own ability to choose and ceaselessly create, that world has been given to us, and we've all had it forever. And it's never taken away. We're actually not separate from the source, and we can't be separate from the source. We just created within our consciousness, given that infinite presence and power, this whole crazy belief system and thoughts that we were apart. That's pretty powerful power. We used it to actually create a realistic facsimile of the impossible. So anytime the mind is suggesting to you that peace will come in the future, it's a trick of your mind to take you away from the fact that you could choose it and welcome the experience of it now. So anytime, it's very simple to catch the ego playing tricks in your mind whenever it's putting peace, or when it's putting practically anything in the future and saying that will have an effect, even when it's predicting negative or positive consequences in the future. Whenever it's playing that game, and I was talking with someone today who was telling me about this, well, what if this happened in the future? I mean, it was a completely irrelevant, absolutely illusionary, off the wall, no basis in reality whatsoever, projection into the future to ask a hypothetical what if question. I was like, do you see what's happening? Do you see that your consciousness is so desperate to not be in the moment that it's playing this game, to get away from the fact of what you're experiencing right now and using the power of your choice? So just watch. You'll see it happen. The way is easy and without effort because we already are what we are created to be and we're already doing it. You don't need to learn how to create. You need to remember how to do it consciously. To be awake to it, not asleep to it. To be present, not a victim of it. A creator abiding in enlightenment knows that all events are neutral. Knows, meaning that's a lived experience, not has a concept that all events are neutral. This is another trick that our mind does because we understand a concept, all events are neutral, and we can even go all and think, I know all events are neutral, but if your experience continues to tell you you don't believe that, you don't truly know it. So knowing is your lived experience, not an intellectual concept. The concepts are worth nothing to you if you're not living them. You might have a concept or a belief that may be helpful, it may be pointing to a truth, but if you're not living it, don't deny it. I mean, I hear all the time, oh, I know that. Bullshit. If you knew it, you'd live it. I mean, like none of us are running around fearful that the sun's not going to come up tomorrow. I mean, that we know. Beyond the concept, we live in the knowing, so there's no thought or fear about it. There's a very big difference between the mind's belief in knowing and what Yeshua is pointing to within this pathway of what knowing is. He defines knowing as being that which is known. Being that all events are neutral. Living it consistently. And he even said that about his own crucifixion early in this pathway. I mean, I would say that's living it when you say your own crucifixion is a neutral event. So neutral that they have no effect except those who choose to be caught up in illusions. So anything that seems to disturb your peace never takes away your consciousness, your awareness, nor your ability to choose. Those can't be lost, ever. They're invulnerable. We rarely live in that certainty. We chase everything that seems to move and everything that seems to change. So you can live in that certainty. Whew, this is so cool. The Creator merely creates out of the devotion to the mystery of that which created him or her. And we never arise with a mind that's open and now at peace, wondering how you'll survive, because you'll know what you are is the faculty of your I am presence. It's not the body. Consciousness isn't contained within the brain. This whole body is contained within your infinite consciousness. So when you wake up to that and you know, I am that I am, I was before, I will always be, you no longer live the world's fear about survival of the body. It doesn't mean you ignore the body. If you're doing that, you still haven't quite gotten it. You're resting in the truth is, I'm always creating. What will I consciously choose to create today? I'll create adequate abundance so that the body can be at peace, so the body can be fed nicely and have warm clothes and all that good stuff. And you'll know that you can ceaselessly do that, effortlessly.
In the morning, when an enlightened creator arises, the question is, how this day might I extend the treasure of the good, the holy, and the beautiful? How can I, right where I am, experience these treasures, even within the space and volume of this body? How can I look lovingly upon what my physical eyes show me, so that I discern or extract the good, the holy, and the beautiful, and therefore give them to myself? The mind of an enlightened creator knows that of themselves they do nothing, but in each moment of decision, they can allow the great power and mystery of love to direct their course, and they can begin to utilize time to refine their abilities to hear only the voice for love, moment by moment, breath by breath, day by day, until time is translated into eternity, and the mind rests, reclines in its perfect union with God. Events still occur. The world is still what the world will choose to be, unaware that there walks in its midst one who is awake, who needs to make no show. They merely are the presence of wakefulness, knowing that each moment they will now be informed by the guidance of the Comforter, the guidance of right-mindedness, the guidance of enlightenment, so that they are no longer attached to fearing.
So I don't think any of us here would think that we created consciousness. Did any of you create your own consciousness? Can anyone explain how the faculty of choice arises and is present within consciousness? Mystery of mysteries. We're intimately familiar with it, but we don't have a clue about it. We're being taught here to remember how it operates, how it functions, but none of us created it. We're always in the presence of mystery. We are the expression of that mystery. But we rarely rest in the absolute awe of that because we're so busy chasing these misidentified thoughts that we are certain tell us who and what we are. So, how can I look lovingly upon my physical eyes show me? This paragraph, the enlightened creator arises, and the question is, and then there's 4 questions. There's a clue here. He talks about it down here about hearing the voice for love. You ask the question and then let the very source of consciousness itself, you can call it the Holy Spirit, the voice for God, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, inform you of what the answers to those questions are. You don't try and answer those questions from your unenlightened past. That's how you ever greater and ever deeper become an expression of that love, which is infinitely wiser and knows exactly what might need to be done in the whole scheme of creation to help out the most. So you don't question these things and then begin your thinking-based Rubik's Cube. You ask the question and you listen. And this is one of the most difficult practices for our incessant thinking minds to do, is actually stop thinking to truly listen to a source outside of you. To a source that is, well, it'll arise within you, but you would identify as not your own wisdom. And they know by themselves they do nothing. Because you can't do anything without that mystery that's creating consciousness, that's creating your I am, and that's creating the faculty of choice within it. You can't be apart from that. You can't do anything by yourself. Everything that you do, you're using the power of the presence of love or consciousness or God to do it. So if you think you're doing it all by yourself, you might want to think again. You might want to reconsider. But this ability to utilize time to refine your ability to hear only the voice for love. And when you start on your path authentically, it can be very distressing for a while you're trying to discern which of these 15 voices in my head is the voice for love, which is the one I can trust. It can be really kind of confusing because, of course, the ego is invested in that. I mean, it's a great impersonator of the spirit voice. When I started hearing Yeshua's voice, I asked him, I said, can you talk in a German accent so that I can tell your voice very distinctly from my own thoughts? And he's like, no, because then the ego would just use a German accent too. You know, truth is not my issue, discernment is your issue. And I was like, ooh, you know, I wanted him to make it easy for me. I'm the one who had to master discernment. I'm the one who had to learn to discern this is peace, this is not. This is, you know, grasping, this is not. I mean, and everybody has to do that for themselves. Everybody has to do that for themselves until, it's like tuning a radio, until you get really, really good within your consciousness tuning in that frequency of your guide. So much so that you'll become just as identified with that frequency as you are identified to the ego. Because the ego is just like a big radio station. You think you have your own, you're just dialed into the one crap channel that everybody's listening to. But it broadcasts on that channel that you're the only one who's this crazy. And we all hear that and we all believe, yeah, I must be the only one. But yet it's broadcasting in everybody's mind. So there's one ego, there's one misperceived thought system, there's one spirit thought system. So this hearing the voice for love, moment to moment, breath to breath, and this is one of the main things I work with when people come to me. It's like they'll come and they want to ask me questions. And I keep pointing them back within to their own truth, their own knowing. Me, because I can hear, doesn't do you any good. And I wouldn't be serving anyone as Christ for you to be dependent on my ability to hear. You need to learn to hear for yourself. And you'll start to recognize when you want to ask Spirit and when you don't. When am I turning for help and when am I insisting, oh, I got this. I got this one. I know what to do now. And even when you've asked Spirit, 3 weeks ago, what do I do in this situation? I would ask again in the same situation today because you don't know what's changed. And you just live in that a simple listening so that you're always receiving that internal guidance. Because if you want to wake up out of this crazy mind, you need a guide from outside of it. Because the ego labyrinth is so elaborate and so complex, there's no, I don't know how Yeshua did it, but I'm glad he did. But a lot of people misperceive that like after enlightenment or something, all of a sudden you start to have a different experience of life. You experience the same life, you have a different experience of it. It's not like all of a sudden you don't see bodies and you see orbs. The mind will tell you all kinds of stuff that should be happening if you were awake and enlightened. It will tell you all kinds of stuff just to convince you that you're not. You'll have a very, very different experience of the world, and you can begin to have all kinds of extra sensory stuff happening within your consciousness. But that'll be a byproduct, not proof. The world is still the world, and it's how the world chooses to be. You'll recognize that the world that seems to be happening out there is the effect of 7 billion asleep gods creating as though they're not the creators of it. No longer will you feel a need to change it. No longer will you see that anything's wrong with it. You'll see that the presence of God given freely to the children is being made manifest over and over and over and over and over. And you won't feel the compunction and the responsibility to fix it because you'll see nothing's broken. Creation is happening. You may be asked, as I've been asked, to do this. Well, then you'll do it. Big deal. Whew. Knowing that in each moment they will now be informed by the guidance of the Comforter. One of the great things of peace, of awakening, is you don't have to plan anymore. And I'm not saying if you're going to go to Maui that you don't book an airline ticket. You do that. But you no longer spend time in your consciousness fantasizing about a future that will be better than the present. You don't worry about, oh my gosh, will I have milk if it snows next week? Oh my gosh, what if I have a flat tire? I mean, all that stuff goes away because you're resting in, you're one with the infinite source of creation, and everything that you need is going to be given you in the moment, when you need it. You don't need a bunch of money in a bank account if you don't need it right now. So you let go of all of that stuff. I mean, I don't even wear a watch or carry a watch anymore because I'll get an internal prompt, it's time to pay a bill. Okay, cool, thanks. I'll go pay that bill. Someone's driving up the driveway. Ooh, I better put a shirt on. I mean, it's not just on this big metaphysical stuff. It's incredibly ordinary. It's incredibly simple. It's incredibly basic, and it covers everything. Because nothing is outside of God anyway, so it's all known. So you don't have to think for yourself literally about anything.
What should I say? What should I do? How will this person take it? How will that person take it? The world is no longer a concern, and they experience their very life as an ongoing, flowing mystery, as though something else were living through them. And this is the meaning of my friend's words, "Let that mind be in you, which was in our Lord Jesus Christ." As you would read in your Bible, that mind is the mind of perfect freedom. It doesn't belong to anyone, but it can be cultivated to flow through you. But only if every fiber of your beingness is wholly committed to holiness. You can't leave a finger outside and get to heaven. All of your mind, all of your energy, all of your gifts, all of your very awareness must become committed to being the presence of peace. And this is what no one can do for you. Sitting at the feet of enlightened teachers, listening to me on your tape or video will not do it for you. And in the wisest of students are those that hear the word and put it into practice diligently for themselves, not for their mother, not for their father, not for their spouse, not for their brother, not for their sister, not for the sake of the planet, not for the sake of the universe, not for the sake of the new dawn that is coming, not for the sake of anything but themselves. For their self is what God created, and that self calls out to you to honor it by separating yourself from the illusions that you have allowed to make a home in your mind and being wholly committed to teaching only love.
This first series of questions, what should I say, what should I do, how will that person take it? Man, if you look at your consciousness around this, how many sit with an email and edit it 5 times before you actually hit the send button? Because you're so concerned with attempting to manipulate the perception of the other that you're so desperate that they not misunderstand you. There's a lot of fear behind that. And I mean, recognize there you are, having no idea what they think, no idea what they will think, thinking that you do, thinking that you can affect what they will think or not think in some way. That's just nuts. It's complete insanity. Because they're going to give whatever you say all the meaning that it has for them. And they always will. And they're free to do it, and they're never going to stop. But you can stop playing that game of anticipating all that. I mean, how many of you drive to a party or drive home for the holidays and you already got the scenario going in your mind? hasn't even happened. And you're already creating what hasn't even happened. And you're already ready to respond to someone in a certain way. You're so certain they're going to say something too. At some point, you got to look inside and go, what the hell am I doing? It's all an illusion that you're creating. And most of it never does happen. And what of it does, you're creating because you're so certain that it's going to happen that you make it happen that way. So just look at how much concern you go into how other people will take what you say. And how invested you are in them responding back to you in the way that you want them to respond so that you won't feel anything. I mean, when you really look at the energy of that, you're saying that sovereign being over there needs to respond not in their infinite freedom of their own choice. They need to respond the way I want them to so I don't feel anything or I feel what I want to feel. It's just a very, very vicious, vicious game that we play and we don't even realize it. We think it's so normal and so real. And then you'll start having the conversation in your head that you think they're having in their head. I mean, wow, what we have created with our infinite consciousness. So the world is no longer a concern. You give up those games, even in your most intimate relationships, even with your spouse, even with your children. You give up playing that game because don't we play that game of what you said hurt my feelings? Now it's your fault. Now you got to get down and somehow kiss my feet to make up. So we do it, but we feel bitter about it. And then we start conniving how to get them back. And the next time something comes up, well, last time, blah, 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 blah. You're never going to have peace playing that game at all. So you come to experience this very life flowing through you. You won't know where it's coming from. You won't know where it's going. You won't know what it's desiring to create. You'll just be present with it. And that's all you'll want. You won't want to think for yourself. You won't want those crazy mind illusions. You won't want the relationships of the world. Because that mind is perfectly free. And I mean radically free. So free that it'll save someone from being stoned, which would be, wow, that's what Jesus would do. And then it'll turn over the money changer tables and yell really loud. Oh, that's not very Christ-like. You have no idea how it's going to show up. You just welcome it showing up. And you know, however it shows up, it's going to be the right thing. So oftentimes, people come to sit with me. They don't like what's said because it's poking the ego right in the eye. Boom. So, I mean, if you want to feel good about your illusions and your judgments, please don't come to sit with me. If you want someone to help you see through what you haven't seen yet, then come. We'll have fun with that. Because it's really about waking up so that this beingness, this mind that is, by the way, doing creation magnificently. Has anyone taken the time recently to notice the infinite abundance and unimaginable creativity with which creation is expressing itself? Just look at the unimaginable variety of just the bodies in this room. And by the way, that infinite intelligence is beating everybody's heart here and none of us are having to worry about it. It's taking care of 1 trillion cells in each of these bodies without any of our awareness. I mean, it's inconceivable the power and the presence and the intelligence that's doing all that. And we're like, I'm not sure if I want God's will. I'm not sure if I want that intelligence to be that which I am and to flow through me with every breath. You're going to come to be that's all you want. And you'll be sacrificing your own ideas like crazy. You'll be throwing them off quicker than you can imagine. But he talks about all your mind, all your energy, and all your gifts. That was the love, Lord, with your mind, your body, your heart, the whole thing. Because every one of us that got on a spiritual path, we were looking for a little self-upgrade. We were looking to be more abundant. We were looking to be happier. We were looking to find out that we were right and our spouse was wrong. Whatever it was. But you can't take the gifts that are intended for the creation, for the whole, and claim them as your own. To do so will completely destroy that love attempting to flow through you. We want to co-opt that and make it mine. We want to take credit for that and make it my accomplishment. You'll come to know robustly that of yourself you know nothing, and of yourself you can do nothing. The wisest of students hear the words and put it into practice. I mean, the ego really does want this. I want enlightenment by listening and watching, or by being in someone's presence. That's just another trick that the ego pulls because it doesn't want to do the work of actually having itself undone. You can clearly learn a lot of beautiful concepts from spiritual teachers. You can learn a lot of powerful meditation techniques. But the only way you truly transcend yourself is by putting the words into practice. And that's what I love about Yeshua's pathways. They're practical. They're not just highfalutin theology. He gives you the whole metaphysics, but in the Course in Miracles, He gives you 365 days worth of very practical lessons. In this pathway, He's giving us practices to do. And none of them are complicated. None of them require special tools. None of them require anything you don't already have. None of them require that you go out and buy money to create a special sound-insulated meditation room. None of them require anything save your willingness to use the capacity that you already have within your consciousness, but to use it differently and to do it consistently so that your practice becomes a lived thing. So, it's not like, I have my spiritual 5 minutes of abiding as Christ, and then I run around in the world as myself, as an ego, and think that the 5 minutes is going to get it done. So it's about putting them into practice. And it's the only teaching that I've ever heard where he talks about the absolute need for selfishness. Divine selfishness. If you don't break the codependent cycle and put your peace ahead of all of everything else, you're not going to get there. And if you're doing it for the sake of whales or planets or anything else, you're going to find that there's going to be some bitterness thrown in the mix. You're going to find that there's going to be some futility thrown in the mix. You're going to find that there's going to be a sense that I can't really do anything. It's just another way the ego tries to do this. And for me, I tried, one of my initial upgrades was I want to do this for my family. I thought I was being really magnanimous. I was full of shit, I was. Absolutely full of shit. So divine selfishness and self with a capital S is really, really important. And you'll find where you're willing to sacrifice your peace because you believe your choice for yourself will have someone point at you and say, how dare you? Yeah, how dare me? You bet. I choose my peace over arguing with you about anything. You bet. How dare me for not continuing to play the world's illusionary game of all this concern out there as a distraction, so I'm not doing my own inner work. Yeah, you bet. How dare me? When you get it through and through, you may have a whole bunch of people in your living room who will say, I think that selfishness looks good. It looks fun. It looks peaceful. You're free to have it for yourself. For the self that is what God created, and that self calls out for you to honor it by separating yourself from the dream of separation. And the fact that we've dreamed is not a problem. The fact that we've done all these, as humanity, all these horrible things, all neutral, our ability to create remains fully and eternally intact. What will we use that for? And you can only use it to create your experience. For all of you who get together and put together this incredible Halloween, sometimes holidays are like Halloween, but this incredible holiday feast because you want everyone else to have a good experience of it, and they don't, and you feel bitter, all you can be responsible for is your experience. They're free to have their own, and they always have been. You might as well recognize that. And if you want to make the feast because it brings you joy, well, then go for it. But if you're doing it because you think it'll bring everyone else joy, if it doesn't, you're going to be pissed off.
There is no other way. Yes, you can learn to sit in meditation and allow the mind and body to float free, to relax. Yes, you can learn rituals that help to focus your attention so that you remember what you are committed to, and the distractions of the world don't seem to quite catch you or hook you as much. There are many strategies that you can enjoy and experience, but in the end, it is only this: a quiet choice within that no one recognizes, that no one sees, that no one hears. This is why I once shouted at the Pharisees, "Oh yes, well, you indeed get your reward standing on the street corners letting everyone know that you're fasting and praying, when indeed you should go into your own closet to pray." That is, to be in your own privacy, making not a show, but simply using each moment to reaffirm your commitment to learning all that love is by teaching it. And by the word teach, I mean simply that you choose to express only love in each moment. Forgiveness is an act through which you learn what love is, that carries you into a transcendence of the world. Sharing only loving thoughts, supporting thoughts, as you look gently upon the Christ in another, is a way that takes you into the transcendence of the world. Looking upon all things of this world and seeing their perfect harmlessness, their lack of ability to constrain you or imprison you, is a way that takes you beyond the world.
Their lack of their ability to constrain you or imprison you. And the you he's referring to there is you as the I am, this consciousness and its faculty of thought and creation, not the body. Clearly the body can be imprisoned. But what did Nelson Mandela do with his consciousness when his body was imprisoned? He set a global example for forgiveness. So the you is this I am of you, not the body. Whew. There is no other way. When he said, I am the life, the truth, and the way, he was saying the I am of him, which by the way is the same I am of you, is the eternal life. It is the truth and the faculty within it for how creation is created, and it's the way. Not one of the ways, it's the way. This is it. So he's not dissing meditation, but he's saying if you think a technique is going to get you there, you're giving a technique the power to attempt to create what you already are. Which you already are that. You can't just look and see what spiritual practice, including a pathway like this, am I giving my power to create what I am, rather than the other way around. So it's infinitely simpler. I mean, most self-improvement's going to go completely out the window. There are going to be an awful lot of unemployed self-improvement gurus when everybody gets that their self already is, and they're simply a matter of mastering their Christedness away from needing no self-improvement. Because the self, and by the way, self-improvement is a trap. It's trying to improve that which is not the mind that was in Christ Jesus, which is what the truth of all of us is. So you can do all this stuff, and these strategies are fine. They'll create a happier dream for you, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with a happier dream. Nothing at all. A more peaceful dream is better than a nightmare dream. But he's inviting you to wake up into the transcendence of it all, so you can truly be in the world and not of it, so that no matter what's happening, your peace isn't disturbed. That's what we truly want, and that's what we're hoping to do. He's looking for 10 million of us to incarnate that peace, that mind that passes all understanding. That'll have a profound effect on the creation that's happening on this planet. So forgiving is the act through which you learn what love is. Forgiving is not an act through which you forgive what you say other people have done to you or what you've done to them. Forgiveness is learning what love is. It's learning what God is. It's learning what I am. It's learning the truth of creation. And forgiving all of the other things that we filled our consciousness with to say that that's not true. That's what forgiveness is. So if you're running around forgiving other people, that's okay, but you're missing the greater point. You're missing the deeper truth of it all. Simply you choose to express only love in each moment, because you recognize nothing can constrain your ability to do that as the I am consciousness. Again, it's important you begin to get your identity separated away from the body. That doesn't mean you deny the body, but you recognize what you are, the truth of you, is that field of awareness, not the body.
And yet all of these things rest on the practice of seeking first the kingdom, which means not to believe in me, not to have some theological notion about what God is, not to adhere to a certain religion or a certain church doctrine. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is the very power of choice. Which pebbles will you drop into the pool of your consciousness? Imagine reaching a point where, just prior to every action that you engage, without ritual, without difficulty, without the grand shows and displays, the burning of much incense and the lighting of 40 million candles, all of the Gregorian chants or the rock and roll or whatever you choose, without any of it, in the silent temple of your heart, you make a simple choice. In this moment, I am going to discover what it means to teach only love. It might be a simple smile. It might be to let your eyes gaze at the beauty of a flower and go, it is very good. It might be to eat your breakfast and actually be there while you're eating it, instead of letting your mind be running about the office.
Well, a whole lot of churches would have to be emptied pretty quickly if that first paragraph was in the bulletin. That simple belief in Him isn't going to get it done. That having a theology, a belief, isn't enough. I mean, I don't know what it's like. I can't picture it, but I bet there are a whole lot of pissed off people who just thought, all I had to do was say Jesus was my Savior and I'm free, and they find Jesus afterwards and Jesus is like, I'm sorry. Just believing in me isn't going to get it done. Your point is to wake up that you are the Son of God, that you are the living Word, that you are that through which creation ceaselessly extends itself. But the kingdom of heaven is the very power of choice. Now, how many of us everybody's got a concept of the kingdom of heaven. Because we're so rooted in our physical experience, we tend to think it's a place. And of course, we tend to think it's a place not here. The very power of choice is the kingdom of heaven. No wonder it's spread over the face of the earth, because there's nowhere on the earth you could go and not still be in choice. It would be choice that got you there. It would be choice what your experience would be there when you got there. And everything that seems to be happening on this world is the effect of humanity's collective choices. So there's heaven. Always has been, always will be. But it might offend your idea that heaven is some, place that only happy things happen or something. It's the infinite field of freedom. The kingdom of heaven is the power of choice. It doesn't say how that choice has to be used. This is a point we don't like. The ego wants a judging God. It wants a God that says, oh, no, you can only create nice things. You can't create bad things. Well, if you remembered Yeshua's very favorite parable, the one he told more than anything else to the prodigal son, the father didn't send him away with his infinite inheritance of choice and say, but you can't choose this, and you can't choose this, and you can't choose this, and you can't choose this. It was, here's your inheritance of consciousness and choice. Go create as you will. Humanity has taken that, and we decided to play with, well, what would it be like to create on the very low vibrational, dense, argue, fight, not know who we are kind of scale. Okay, great. There's creation. We've not lost the ability to create, and we're free to wake up and create anew at any time. Which pebble will you drop into the pool of your consciousness? You're going to continue dropping I'm a victim pebbles? You're free to do so, but just know you're using your omniscience to drop those pebbles. Or you can drop, I am awake now and I am conscious of all that. It's your choice. And nobody can choose for you. God's already chosen perfect freedom for you. Perfect, unconditional freedom. That's why God's love is called unconditional. It's kind of a shame that we have to take love and qualify it with unconditional. Love already itself is unconditional, except we've made human love out of it and we put all kinds of conditions in it. But that's a little aside. And the kingdom of heaven is never taken away from you, and you can never get outside of it. This is not good for the seeking community, who is bound and determined that it's got to be an angelic realm. Well, I can tell you, in the angelic realm, the kingdom of heaven is still choice. In the astral planes, the kingdom of heaven is still choice. In the animal world, the kingdom of heaven is still choice. It's still the very same I am faculty. So are you willing to stop seeking it, recognize you're right square in the middle of it, you always have been, you always will be, and wake up and do it consciously? Free to do that if you wish. And it requires, and this is the thing, it requires nothing. Everybody's already doing it. How many of you have heard someone woke up or had some great mystical experience on a certain meditation practice and then, I got to go do that. Or they use this incense, I got to go do that. We chase down all kinds of magic thinking it's going to come from outside of us. And of course it never will. And then he goes on to say, in this moment, I'm going to discover what it means to teach only love. And I don't know about you, but these aren't cosmically earth-shaking. A simple smile. It might be to let your eyes gaze upon the beauty of a flower. It might actually to be present eating your breakfast. When you actually do that from a place of innocence and wonder, you're going to be astonished at the mystery that's staring you right in the face from a bowl of Wheaties. You will be absolutely astonished, not only that it's staring you in the face, but that it's snap, crackle, and popping, and then you get to have this rich experience of texture and temperature, and you'll be, if you ever really get innocent about how any of that is happening, you can't explain any of it. so you can be present with, in awe and wonder of the presence of God itself, feeling this infinite field of consciousness and choice in the simplest of things. But our ego oftentimes is looking for these cosmically mystical, huge kind of things. Again, just to distract you away from, you know what? God's all that is. People run around saying that all the time. They just don't actually look at all that is and go, wow, dude, there it is. Did this not arise by choice? Show me one thing that didn't arise by choice. Even the whole cosmos that seemed to arise from a big bang was the choice to create a cosmos. So there's the kingdom of heaven. And there's still 24 more lessons to come to teach us truly how to create consciously, peacefully within it, how to unwind ourselves from all our illusionary creations. Yeah, this coming Tuesday, which is Christmas Eve, we're going to deepen lesson number 10. We're going to finish this lesson, not number 11. I'll need to change that slide. Any questions or comments tonight? Bob's got one? Okay.
I still have a problem with it. Well, it says about all things are neutral. I mean, when you're truly enjoying yourself, when you're just having fun and stuff, is that considered neutral, or don't you consider that good or happy, joyful? But don't you choose to want to have those experiences?
Nowhere does he say that you can't enjoy neutral events.
Okay, so it is neutral, but it's still enjoy as long as you're just being in the moment and just happy, just experiencing.
Yeah, but just notice where the mind goes. All events are neutral, therefore my experience of the neutral event all of a sudden gets invalidated. If it's neutral, I can't be at joy. He's not at all saying you're not free to create whatever experience you want to have. If you remember in the last lesson, he talked about the trees, the logger cuts them down, and the environmentalist. Neutral event, both the logger and the environmentalist are free to create their experience of it. Mm-hmm. So please don't make the leap from neutral to then mean boring.
Okay.
The ego will do that. It'll go, oh, well, if everything's neutral and it's not good and it's not bad, well, boring, and why would I do anything?
Okay.
The point is, you're free to look on any event. It's neutral. You're free to still get pissed off at it. But no, you're making a choice to put the judgment on it, not because what's happening justifies your judgment. And when you really get that, you stop making the judgment. Mm-hmm. Nor is he saying you must be at peace with what seems like a murder. He's not saying you should be like, joy, way to go, because there's a murder. He's not saying that either. You're still at conscious choice about those experiences, but recognize the events of and of themselves are neutral. And what he's pointing at is the events have no power to affect the kingdom of heaven. The events themselves have no power to take away your power to choose how you will experience it. Rather, you get in how do I choose to experience this very robustly. And once you know you're at peace, once you know you're at choice, rarely do you choose to be in distress. But this is a very common thing, and I'm glad you asked the question, because our thinking mind makes a non-logical intuitive leap from all events are neutral to mean I can't enjoy. Quite the contrary. This is a very, very rich world with an incredible plethora of experience to be had, and it can be much more enjoyable when you're out of that whole cycle of good, bad, right, wrong.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll be right back.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah, you got a death grip on that mic.
This one's in terms of the deeply listening.
Uh-huh.
How do you step out of your way to understand and hear the guidance that is being given?
That's a beautiful question, and I got lots of tips, tricks, and pebbles for you. Ready?
Oh, goodness.
Okay, so I'll just kind of give them as they come. One, we tend to live in this area. Your awareness tends to be centered around your head. So if you imagine a radio, and you're not all that old, but in the old cars we had buttons that switched it, and it was actually a dial so you could see where it was, and it whoosh. So if you imagine this is one radio station, and that's WEGO, 24-hour crap and shit all day long. You can come on at 8 o'clock for the Guilt Oldie show, whatever. But if you imagine, for me, the heart area is actually moving to a different channel. So when you can learn to consciously know I'm moving from the WEGO channel to the WLOVE channel, and you actually move your awareness, you're actually entering another state of consciousness within your being. So the important thing is learning, because it'll be like your awareness is spring-loaded. It'll come down here, you'll hear like one word and whoosh, right back up into the mind area. So physically moving your awareness can help.
Okay.
Recognizing that whole symbol that you're wanting to get off of your channel. You're wanting to get out of your head, and that symbol of changing the channel can really help, because that's a conscious way that you're saying, I'm going to leave my thinking mind behind and kind of move into another area. A couple other things about tending to hear guidance. Our ego, kind of like Bob illustrated, makes conclusions about guidance that are horribly wrong. We think, because our ego says, you're so stupid, you're so guilty, if you go and listen to this voice is going to tell you you did screw up, and you are guilty, and you are bad. Nothing ever judges on the guidance channel. Now, I'm not saying that Yeshua was not prickly with me. He was. He was clear in pointing out when I was playing a game. But it's not a judging place. It is a very safe place to go. Really, that channel or your guides are there to protect your innocence while you go off and play in this realm of guilt. So know that you're only going to get love on that channel. That's not to say sometimes, like I said, it's not tough love to wake you up. So recognize that the guides truly are there to help you. They're not there to help the ego. We oftentimes want that very much. They're there to help the soul awaken up out of its misidentification. Breathing deeply, asking a question, and then when you take a deep breath, you let that breath carry your awareness out of your mind and let it rest in the heart. So the breath oftentimes creates a gap that's wide enough that you can the spirit can start to hear. Mm-hmm. The ego almost all the time will speak first, because it's so frightened that if it doesn't yell at you first and get you to go with it, it knows it's going to lose if you actually hear the Spirit's voice. So it tends to speak first. So you don't necessarily take the first thought. What's going to come, and how it came for me, I'm kind of a clairaudient. I heard very, very clearly. But some people get it feeling sense. Some people get it, they can do it with automatic writing. Rather, my point is, don't limit that it's got to come in a voice. Mm-hmm. Be willing to have the Spirit communicate with you in every potential way. So I would suggest to you to really just in a prayer say, okay, because the way we set it up when we went to sleep, it was like, Spirit, you hang out. You can't call me. I have to call you first. And usually we ring up, hey, do I do this or I do that? And we hang up. But even in that, you've already chosen the two options. So I have crap option 1 and crap option 2. I want Spirit to validate one of my bad choices. Thanks, see you later. So it's about recognizing that you open up all avenues of communication. My desire is to be in communion with my guides, so please use movies, songs, words out of other people's mouth, billboards, commercials, any and everything to start getting through to me. So the other thing is in prayer, cancel the contract that you have to call first. Open the door of your being and invite them to join you in your awakening and authorize them to speak first. Not that they then speak first and you don't, but really open two-way communication. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's really, really important because they won't do it otherwise, because you're really in charge of your experience. So if you want to create a rapid or awakening, I would open up that communication and let them speak and begin to move within you more readily. So those are just a couple.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or you're welcome. Oh, a couple more just dropped in. The guided ones will come with a sense of peace. And if you recognize a sense of peace, the ego will almost always try and attack that and talk you out of it. If you felt some peace and there is attack, rather than buying the ego's chattering attack, recognize the ego is trying to get you to undo what was true. So use the ego's attack of the guidance you heard to recognize that means the guidance is better. Don't take the ego's attempt to indict the guidance. Does that make sense? And know, like anything else, the ego will tell you you have to trust it in blind faith. No. Start with, I don't know if I can hear correctly. I want to build this relationship. And just as you would build it with anyone else, you're building it within your own being and your guides. So recognize they know they have to create trust with you. And I was fearful about that. And Yeshua said, why would I want to make you do things of fear to prove to me who you are? I know who you are. I will meet you where you think you're at, and I will show you that I'm trustworthy. Because, of course, you're coming into relationship with God, really. So you're not asked to make some huge, crazy leap of faith. Take as big a step as you're willing to take until the trust is built, and then you'll take another, and you'll take another. And know that you're in charge of that. They're there to serve you, not the other way around. Okay, I think that's it. So those are great tips if they help anybody else. One more. Go back, Gordon. Avoid the temptation to seek your guidance through another person. And avoid the temptation to ask someone to validate what you think you heard. Because all they're going to do is plaster their fears all over your guidance. You got to live what's true for you, and that's all you can do. Okay, I think that's it. You're welcome. Anyone else? If you're interested in coming and sitting with me to journey your pathway to remembrance, we've had some people come and stay with us for extended stays. That's an option for you too if you're interested. But just know it's pretty intense. You know, it's not a walk in the park. Your shit's going to come up, and I'm not going to hug you with it, kind of thing. If you want me or One Who Wakes, which I guess right now is kind of the same thing, come to do a retreat or clerkship in your area, let us know. Love offering. I choose to do this work and give it all away. The movies we do, these talks, everything are given absolutely freely because you're helping to create them, really. I mean, all of these come in a response to our decision to awaken. So you're co-creator with them. I mean, kind of credit should be up here, credit to Christ, and that includes everyone. So we choose not to charge for something and leave it on you as an infinite creator to determine the value that it has for you. We would invite you to go within. This is a great opportunity to seek some guidance. And choose, am I going to make a donation, and if so, how much? There's a basket on the other side of the fireplace. You can put your donation in there. If you're watching online, you can go to onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a Give button. Click that and make your donation on PayPal. And even if you don't have a PayPal account, you can do that. And we are a nonprofit 501c3, so all of your donations, big, little, small, and really big, are tax deductible. When I come to do this work, all of the I am that you are comes. Your guides are here. Your guides got you here. Your guides will drop pebbles in from this to remind you if you're willing to allow them to do so. And we do it all for ourself. It's our divine selfishness which includes the I am of you. That's why it's to all benefit to always be helpful in awakening. It's not like you get enlightenment and you just kick back, well, I got mine, screw those guys. You recognize that they are indeed you. So we come, we love you with an absolutely infinite love because we love ourselves that way. And we extend to you our absolute perfect peace and welcome you to come and abide in it with us. Blessings and a joyful good night, and I'd welcome hugs on the way out.